Welcome to GaryCon 13, everybody. I'm your host, Luke Gygax. I'm joined by my sister, Heidi Gygax, and the GaryCon chaplain, Derek, the Geek Preacher White. Uh, First things first, I want to thank our sponsors for making this possible. Epic Encounters by Steamforged Games and my good friends at Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms. They're making this stream possible all throughout GaryCon, all 4 days. We have several Twitch channels going. This is GaryCon Gaxmore. We have GaryCon Blighted Lands, GaryCon Greyhawk, and GaryCon Loch Geneva, all filled with content all 4 days. So plenty to watch in between your games. And again, GaryCon 13, just like GaryCon 12, is all virtual due to the coronavirus. It's been a tough couple years, but thank God for technology. Thank God for streaming. Thank God for Zoom and Discord and all these other pieces of technology we have that keep us together. So we're able to keep it going, keep the celebration going. Next year, though, 2022, we'll be doing it live in Lake Geneva, which is great. And we will continue doing the virtual GaryCon for those who are around the globe and can't make it into Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Not the easiest place to get to, as anyone who's been there can attest. No direct flights into Lake Geneva. But for those of you who maybe don't know what GaryCon is, let me just give you a quick breakdown. GaryCon grew out of a very sad event. My father, Gary Gygax, the co-creator of Dungeons and Dragons, passed away March 4th of 2008. And we had a funeral for him. And afterwards, so many people had reached out to us. Those who maybe even didn't know my dad directly, had just were impacted by his work, or he had corresponded with by email or on forums, felt moved to come to Lake Geneva and pay their respects. So we had an event, a wake, a memorial gathering, where we got together, we played games, which is what my dad loved most in life, is playing games and sharing camaraderie with people. We watched the D&D cartoon and the Futurama episode that we was on. And everybody had such a good time, and it was so cathartic for our family that we decided to carry it on. And I don't know if my sister Heidi can kind of attest to the spirit that we felt during that event.
Yes, it was, while it was a very, very sad event for our family, it was just the outpouring of love and support that we got from the gaming community and the people that came by was just really fantastic. And, it continues. And I just wanted to thank each of you who participate, whether or not you were there that first time or not. It just really means so much to us, whether or not you knew our dad, but you do honor his memory by continuing to get together and gaming and having a great time, and we really appreciate it.
We do. It means a lot, and it's GaryCon is a family reunion, and that includes those of us who are close to us, many of whom were designers and artists who worked with my father when we were young, or that even my brothers and sisters may have worked with when they worked at TSR. But it's become more than that. It's become a way for us to honor those early pioneers who are still with us. And many of them come to GaryCon. Many of the classic designers or designers from that era come to GaryCon, and we play their games. You can sit down and chat with them. And it's really a wonderful opportunity because these guys are all our old friends. And it's just wonderful to be able to see them and have a venue where we can all gather together and reminisce and play great games. But my father isn't the only one who has passed away from that era. As each year passes, unfortunately, time takes its toll, and we lose some folks. And I do want to take a moment just to say, memorialize them and say that they are not forgotten and show our appreciation for them as well. Dave Arneson, creator of Blackmore and co-creator of D&D, Professor M.A.R. Barker, Empire of the Petal Throne, John Hill, squad leader, John Eric Holmes, the Holmes D&D set, Bill Hoyer, International Federation of Wargaming, one of the founding members and Castles of Crusade Society, Don Kay, who started Tactical Studies Rules with my father way back in 1973, I believe, Tom Moldvay, Keith Parkinson, the artist, Jim Rosloff, a well-known artist, and I believe he's art director for TSR for a period of time. Dave Sutherland, nice guy, had a lot of, he's done a lot of great work, obviously, and just was a really nice guy. I remember he always treated me well as a little kid running around 723 William Street, the first headquarters for TSR. David Trampier, who worked right across, had drafting board right across from Dave Sutherland, and had all sorts of cool wormy cartoons and stuff like that. He was a very interesting character. Jean Wells, the first female TSR designer, also a maker of fantastic Southern fried chicken. So I ate that with great joy on many occasions. Lynn Willis from Chaosium, Lauren Wiseman, Eric Wojcik, a guy who was really a good friend and lived next to him for a while, just a real nice guy. Uncle Duke, Bruce Duke Seifried, passed away in 2018. Darwin Bromley, and then just last year, another person I was lucky enough to reconnect with from the past, Len Lakofka, Leoman's Tiny Hut. He passed. I wrote some iconic early D&D adventures. I was just fortunate enough, just kind of dumb luck. I'm in the National Guard and I was stationed in Long Beach, and that's where he was living. And he contacted me and said, hey, I have some things. And he passed on some Rel Partha minis and some other things. And he said, well, I'm moving. And I think he knew he was sick and he just wanted to pass on some things to people who might appreciate them. And so I had an opportunity to talk to him a few times, and that was really great. So, tip of the hat. Keep those folks in mind during GaryCon as you celebrate, as you have a good time, which is what it's about. And we got plenty of great guests that are here, both from old school and newer school. So guys like, we've got Tim Kask and Jim Ward and Tom Wam, Zeb Cook will all be here participating. And on the newer side, there's, Mike Merles, Chris Lindsay, we'll have Satine Phoenix running some events, Elisa Teague, Stephen Radney McFarland. So there's just a wide range of people running games, designers, as well as just you and me who are here playing games. And of course, as I mentioned, our streaming events. Thank you again to all of our sponsors, our vendor sponsors, as well as our title sponsors for supporting us so that we can bring this content to you and keep the celebration going. Just to highlight a couple things, on Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time, we'll have Beetle and Grimm, the Beetle and Grimm crew running some D&D. On Friday, we'll have another episode of Maximum Mike Pondsmith running Cyberpunk Red for Team Monster, which I'll be fortunate enough to play in along with Matt Lillard and Beast and Jason Azevedo and Nora Ibrahim. So, and John Tutal from Monster Fight Club will all be together. Saturday, we have a very special event. We're going to be continue to raise money for Extra Life, but this is our big push, is that same time, 8 p.m. Central Time, Saturday. We'll have Andrew Cosby, the creator of Eureka and writer of Hellboy. He'll be running for us. High Plains Drifters, and we'll have the pleasure of David Harbour, the actor from Stranger Things. Matthew Lillard will be back. Deborah Ann Wool will be returning as well. She's great, played with both of those folks before. Alicia Marie, a very talented cosplayer, and me will be there on Saturday night. Can't wait for that one. And then Sunday, we're wrapping it up with first edition D&D classic adventure from Stefan Picorni, the CEO of Dwarven Forge, founder of Dwarven Forge. So we'll have lots of beautiful terrain. And it's about it's like the 9th time I've played Bingo Shortwick, my halfling thief. We'll have Marcy, the talking sword from Old York, will be back, as well as Elisa Teague and David Baxter playing again, and Thor Nye, and of course, Peter Adkison, another one of my good friends. So just some great content coming up. We'll be raising money for Extra Life. Please join our team, Team GaryCon 13. Donate if you can. Just post up on your social media to help us raise money for an excellent cause. Extra Life supports the Children's Miracle Network of Children's Hospitals. We're going to be supporting the Wisconsin Hospital in Milwaukee, Wisconsin Children's. So anything you can do to help promote that would be greatly appreciated. But for now, let's get GaryCon started officially. we'll have our chaplain give us a blessing, and then we'll continue.
Thank you, Luke. As always, it's an honor to be a part of GaryCon and the GaryCon family. And so receive this blessing. May the dice roll in your favor. May your fellow players always have your back. May the game master rule fairly, and much laughter and joy surround your tables. And until we meet again, hopefully in Lake Geneva, may the Creator hold you safely in the palm of their hand. Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you for that great blessing. Thank you for joining me, Heidi, and thank all of you for being at GaryCon. Sit back, grab some snacks, grab your dice. It's time to have some fun. We'll see you later.
New Glarus, if you can find it.
Oh yes, if you can get a spotted cow, I'm jealous. I don't have them out here in California.
Yeah.
Good luck, everybody. Yeah. All right, here we go. Hello, GaryCon goers. It's me, Luke Gygax, your host at GaryCon 13. I want to thank our sponsors, Steamforged Games and Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms, as well as our vendor sponsors for their generosity that made this whole Twitch stream possible all throughout GaryCon. So please support all of our sponsors and vendors. They're putting it out there so that we can have great content like we have right now. I'd like to welcome the famous game designer, Steve Jackson, to GaryCon 13. How are you doing today, Steve?
Hanging in there. How are you?
Good, good. So I did some preparation before having you on, and I just wanted to say, ask you, what motivated you to start Games Workshop in 1975 with Ian Livingstone and John? Oh, wait a second. Oh, I think I got the wrong Steve Jackson. Hold on.
An easy mistake to make. We're both really.
Okay. Oh, that's the British Steve Jackson. Sorry. Okay. American game designer. Right. Okay. Here we go. All right. So sorry about that, folks. So today, it's my pleasure. We're going to be speaking with Steve Jackson of the eponymously named games company. He's created a host of games throughout his long-running career, many of which I'm sure you know. A couple of the top ones that I'm familiar with and have enjoyed personally are GURPS, the Generic Universal Role-Playing System, Car Wars, which was my favorite as a kid at conventions, and of course Munchkin, which I think everyone who's a gamer has played at least once at a convention and had a lot of fun. Steve is an extremely accomplished and recognized game designer. He has many Origin Awards and was the youngest game designer ever to be inducted into the Origins Awards Hall of Fame. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today, Steve, and for being a good sport about my cheesy joke.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And on behalf of my good twin, because I'm the evil twin, thank you from him too.
That's great. Hey, so I mentioned that you've been designing games for a number of years. What was it that got you interested in gaming, and what made you decide to make a career out of game design?
Well, my father liked games, which is something that you're familiar with.
Yes.
but I played a lot of chess in high school, but when I really got into it was in college, when there was a period when I played Risk almost every night, and only broke that to play one of the SPI titles, like Strategy 1, for instance, or Borodino.
Okay, so you got a little bit into, those are war gaming, right, through SPI?
Yes,
okay.
Those are hex-type war games.
Okay, yeah, so I was gonna say, usually Avalon Hill, I think of as SPI, Avalon Hill, and then SPI came, if I remember correctly, for war games. I know my dad and I played Gettysburg, which was an Avalon Hill game.
Avalon Hill title.
And then Operation Overlord. I'm not sure who made Operation Overlord, but it was the invasion of Normandy. I can't remember that one.
Yeah, that's kind of a generic title. Well, Avalon Hill came a little bit first, but SPI produced 10 or 20 times as many titles.
I see. Yeah, so
in that type of game, and they were very, very prolific, very talented.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've certainly heard SPI games and seen shelves full of SPI games. I think my older brother and my dad played more war games, because by the time I was coming up, it was all about the role-playing game and Dungeons and Dragons more specifically. But I know you were familiar with D&D. It was pretty much all the rage and really hit pretty hard in probably 76, I think, is probably when D&D began to be really grow in popularity. But I read that you liked D&D, but you were not a big fan of all the different shapes of dice. And that annoyed me.
I wasn't crazy about the polyhedra. I liked just being able to reach for my six-siders and roll them.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, for me, that struck me. I was like, no, that's interesting. I mean, of course, people like different sorts of things. But for me, I just was raised with, dice all around the table and playing with different shapes of dice. And I would use dice as, little miniatures, make armies out of my dice and that sort of stuff. So I've always had an affinity for the various shapes and colors of dice. And of course, my father was an insurance underwriter before. Well, he was an amateur game designer for a number of years. Of course, you probably know all this sort of stuff, but for our audience who may not know, he designed war games in particular, and then when he co-created Dungeons and Dragons with Dave Arneson, he really wanted to have more variation in your probability curves. So as an insurance underwriter, he would use actuarial tables, and so he's familiar with that. So he's trying to get different probability curves, and so that's why we led to all the dice. And I think the dice have been really linked to a lot of the the culture of being a tabletop role player, especially the D20.
If there's going to be one symbol of role playing in the public mind, I think it would be a handful of polyhedra.
Yeah, you are right. And those Creative Productions 1972 dice are the ones that always come to my mind when I think of dice. And that's the I think it was like a pink 6-sider, or a yellow 4-sider, a pink 6-sider, a green D8, a white or a red 20-sided die, but it was numbered 0 to 9 twice, and you had to take a marker and color them in. So that's what I think of as the old school dice. I still remember using those and digging them out of my dad's dice bag. But so since you didn't like all those funny little dice, is that how you got to Fantasy Trip, which is one of your role-playing games?
Fantasy Trip was the first RPG that I did. And yes, I wanted to just stick with 6-siders. And it's not a hate of the polyhedra, it's a hate of complexity. When I, many years later, did the Cthulhu dice game, that uses a 12-sided die, but that's all it uses is a 12-sided. I just like knowing what to reach for. Yeah, Fantasy Trip played on hexes, used a point build system for characters, and you rolled 6-sided dice.
And so the point build system is something, I mean, I don't know, was that new back then, or was there point builds? Yeah. I mean, I should know it was new. Oh, wow. It's because I still see a lot of people doing point builds now as a preferred.
Yeah. We're breaking up really badly on my end. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you fine. Sorry about that.
Okay. Well, that's all right. As long as the recording is coming through, then we win.
Absolutely. I think in today's world where we're having to do everything from home, home systems, we don't get quite as crisp and professional quality as we hope for. But soon we'll be back in person and maybe shooting stuff with studio quality cameras and crews and that sort of stuff. But I was just asking if the point buy system was something you came up with for Fantasy Trip. Was that new, or was the point buy system kind of, I guess point buys were around in war games, right?
Point buy was old news for miniatures and wargaming systems. I may have been the first one to apply it to creating an individual RPG character. Not sure.
Okay, and that's neat. I think I bet I would, if I asked John Peterson, famed role-playing and games historian, he'd be able to tell me that. So maybe I'll ask John Peterson that question if the Fantasy Trip was the first point buy in RPGs. I just thought that was very interesting. So I know you worked for another company when you first started Meta Gaming.
Meta, yes.
And then in 1980, you struck out on your own to start Steve Jackson Games, which is still running strong. What inspired you to start Steve Jackson Games and kind of go out on your own?
It boiled down to creative control. I wanted to do what I wanted to do, and I wanted to have a big hand in my own proofreading and press checking, because so many things can go wrong at that stage.
Yeah, I remember my father strongly, just being very upset with editors if they changed the words too much. Because he said they have meaning, and now they've changed what I was really saying. It doesn't make sense anymore, and that would make him pretty cross. So he'd say, "Hey, no, change it back to this." I remember him dictating on old tape recorded handheld dictation machines. He would put it in there make notes on his written paper. So for a game designer, it's really important that you keep that creative control and someone doesn't mess up where you're heading with that. So, so I'm going to ask you a question that you probably get a lot, and it may be a difficult one, but what's your favorite game that you made, and why do you like that one?
Well, the answer that I always give to that is that's like asking which of my children I love best. It all depends.
Parents know there's really one secret that you like better than the rest, but you know, no, no, of course not. No, I'm kidding. I'm just teasing. Well, I'll tell you probably my favorite game that's just based on nostalgia for me in that like magical time. Car Wars. I love playing Car Wars so much. I think I was probably 11 or 12 years old, and I remember it came in little black plastic, pamphlet kind of size boxes. They had 2 little latches, and there was a colorful sticker on there. It was Car Wars was one of them, and the next one was Sunday Drivers, if I remember correctly, and then Truck Stop, which had. Hold on 1 second here. Uh-oh. All right, hopefully we're back. All right, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so I just remember the Car Wars, Car Wars and Sunday Drivers and Truck Stop. And it just occurred to me, Truck Stop had rules for gas-powered engines. So you had already predicted when you wrote these in the early 80s that we'd be driving electric vehicles.
Driving electric vehicles, yep, with a motor in each wheel.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So I always liked the gas powered because I think I got way better acceleration gas powered ones than the electric ones. But yeah, I spent many hours crawling around for the Mega Center in Milwaukee, where Gen Con was held with my skill check for making these crazy maneuvers, and that was just so much fun. Very happy to know that you kickstarted that recently, I think last couple of weeks or month. Car Wars 6th edition should be coming out soon. Is that right?
Yes, it's at the factory now. And of course, the factories are a lot slower than they were because of COVID, and shipping is a nightmare. But we expect to get it here sometime this year.
Okay. All right, great. So yeah, I mean, hopefully everything's getting delayed this year anyway. So I know Gen Con recently announced that they pushed their dates from, I believe it was early August into the middle of September. So maybe we'll see Car Wars at Gen Con, and maybe I'll have an opportunity to play 6th edition on a tabletop. I won't be crawling around on the floor these days. I'm 50 now, so my back's not quite as limber as it was back in those days.
It works just fine on a tabletop. The cars now are bigger, so the turning key is bigger, which will make things better for these failing eyes. And scenery is good. I love playing with scenery.
Yeah, Car Wars is definitely, I know, it's like you said, it's hard to pick one for me, but for me, I love Car Wars. I played Illuminati as well. That's great. I played Munchkin. I played Cthulhu Munchkin. So I've played several of them and enjoyed them all. But for me, just the memories of Car Wars just always raised it up just a little bit higher.
One of these days we'll get you back there.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I would love. Hopefully, maybe we'll play Car Wars at GaryCon in 2022. I'd love to have you there as a guest again. I know you made it. I think it was in 2019,
yes.
If I remember correctly. And I'd love to have
Car Wars.
Yeah, it was a good time. So in your career as a game designer, I'm sure you've seen lots and lots of things, but I know to me, it seemed like an interesting story. Did you ever think that being a game designer would bring you head to head with the United States Secret Service in some sort of conflict?
Well, doesn't every game designer get rated by the Secret Service? I thought it was just a usual thing.
Well, strangely enough, you say that, but my dad really did have military intelligence or somebody like that coming to his basement. Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, yeah. So my mom told me about it. So my dad would put out these little obviously he's a rules maker, and he'd talk about battles and, doing a, mail out through to his distribution network, to his war games club,
Right.
things that were about war games, right? So this was during the Vietnam era, and there was some homegrown, disturbances and people who were anti-government. So apparently the word got out that this might be a group meeting in the basement that's planning some sort of revolutionary actions, right?
Oh, thought you might be thought he might be running a militia because he had a mailing list.
Exactly. So my mom was immediately suspicious because it was, a guy, reserved looking guy with very short hair, but kind of clean and trim. But the woman that was with him, his girlfriend or wife or whatever was the case, was like a knockout, like just a very attractive lady. And she was like, women aren't known for playing war games too many. And the ones that do usually aren't like knockouts. So she kept her eye on her a little bit as well. But it turns out they came to about 3 or 4 sessions, and then they stopped coming. And the man came back and he said, "Hey, you were kind of under surveillance here for a minute. We were just checking you out, but I really did have fun. So I'm going to come back and play some more war games if you don't mind." And so I guess he came a few more times. And the lady never came back. That was just work for her. She was not enthused with the game. But that's kind of a funny story because it was so new. Wargaming was a niche thing, and even creating hackers, I think, ended up getting you in some trouble there. So, and I know you've told the story many times, so I won't belabor it here or make you tell it again. But it's a neat story.
The funny thing about that. The high-profile thing that they confiscated from our office was the manuscript of GURPS Cyberpunk. That wasn't even what they were looking for, but when they ran into it, they thought they had struck hacker gold. Jonathan actually gave an interview where he said, "We have confiscated a handbook for computer crime." They had to eat that one pretty quickly.
That's pretty hilarious. So is that a Cyberpunk Mike Pondsmith, right? That's
okay. Cyberpunk with no GURPS in front of it is Mike Pondsmith's game.
Okay.
Cyberpunk was just a general story about cyberpunk type worlds.
Got it. Okay, I wasn't sure, and I should have done that. I should have done that research. I wasn't sure if you guys maybe partnered together.
Well, Mike owns the trademark, and he very graciously said that if we used it that way, he was all right with that.
Okay, see, yeah, that's cool because Mike, we're playing Cyberpunk with Mike on Friday.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's going to run Cyberpunk with some friends of mine. It's like we're called Team Monster. So we've done like 5 of these. He did it last year at GaryCon. We've done a few other in between. So Mike's a really nice person, and another of our kind of classic game designers who started off I think he was in the early 80s or so, and who continues on today. And Cyberpunk has seen some pretty big popularity as well. So I love being able to see see guys that I knew running around Gen Con as a kid and get to relate with them now as an adult and kind of hear about what they've done and from a different perspective as a grown-up versus just a kid who loved playing Car Wars and got to meet you. I think my dad took me by your booth at an relatively early Gen Con in the 80s, and I thought that was neat. And I'm sure you wouldn't remember I was just some little boy who was with my dad, but I did enjoy that, and it's really great to see you guys again and get to meet you and talk with you as an adult and ask these kind of cool questions. And speaking of my father, please, I don't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, go on.
Oh, I'll just say, speaking of my dad and the things that he liked, I saw that you also enjoy trains, and my dad was a big train enthusiast. Another game designer who's kind of like an uncle to me, Tom Wam, loves trains as well.
Always shows up in his engineer's overalls. Yeah,
he does. He always has engineer overalls, and he wears his hat. And he really will, just on weekends, he'll go like ride trains, take pictures of different trains. I mean, just he loves trains, and he spends time, doing that sort of stuff. So I'm wondering, are trains, do you think that's generational, or do you think that trains are something that captured the minds of creative people? And what do you think?
Well, in some ways, I'm the wrong person to answer because I just think trains are neat. I don't think it's generational. I know a lot of younger rail fans. It's just trains are awesome and there should be more of them.
Yeah, they're really powerful. I'm a transportation officer in the Army, and I had a great, the great pleasure of working out in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And I got to take a couple weeks and work with the guys running rail around the Fort Sill and pulling cars around. And so I learned a little bit about rail and how efficient it is, how much cheaper it is than motor.
I knew Fort Sill was huge, but I didn't know it had its own rail network.
They do. It's to move all the artillery pieces and other, wheeled and tracked vehicles that go along with it. So they have a small rail yard, and they have like a pony engine that can pull things around and reorganize cars and all that sort of stuff. So that was pretty cool, and I learned a lot. But rail is efficient and safe and doesn't use as much energy or pollute as much. So yeah, rail is kind of neat. We should probably look at a little bit more rail for the country, right? But that's not. Yeah, and there's tons of cool rail games like Rail Baron, Ticket to Ride, Empire Builder. Is there any cool rail video games that you know about?
Well, there's a good adaptation of Ticket to Ride.
Okay.
There are a lot of train driving simulations out there for the real train head. They actually put you in the cab of the locomotive and give you a route to run. And you have to make it as quickly as possible with 100% safety.
Oh, that sounds neat. I'll have to check those out. That could be a lot of fun. I know my dad would spend, he'd be in there doing that probably and wasting all his time. He used to complain about, don't get me any new video games on the computer. And this is back, when we're talking about a monochrome screen, like a green screen, if people remember that.
Pong.
Yeah, well, there was a game called Rails West, I think is what it was called. And I just remember it'd be, 4:30 or 5 in the morning. He'd wake up extra early to come in and play. And the computer was in my bedroom when we were living in Stone Manor. And he would be in there, over the board, playing. And I'd hear the one sound effect it had was a beep, beep, beep. That's when something neat happened or some, word, that was it. But he would play that very simplistic game for hours and hours. So that's why he was always like, no video games for me, because I'll lose a week or two of productivity, because he just loved games, right? I mean, that's why you're a game designer. You love games. So that's where your passion is. And speaking of passion in games, what do you guys at Steve Jackson Games have coming up on the horizon?
Well, we talked about Car Wars. That's going to be a biggie. I know something awesome that I could show you. Do you remember Wiz War?
Yes. Yep.
We are going to do a new edition of Wiz War. I've made a deal with Tom Jolly, and it's already produced them at the factory, but I don't know when it's going to ship. I could show you the cover, but the game's in the other room, so you might want to turn off the recording for a second.
But that's all right. What we'll do is we'll get a picture of it and we'll put it up after this so that people can check out Wiz War, because I'm not that smooth as to be able to cut it in post or that sort of stuff. But all right, so Wiz War, you heard it here. Wiz War is the next thing that's coming up. So as I mentioned, you're one of the early gaming icons. You're still active today, putting out products. You've seen things since the mid 1970s all the way up to today. Do you have any predictions or thoughts on where tabletop gaming is going to head in the next 10, 20, or 30 years?
Boy, predictions are hard for more than 20 minutes into the future.
That's true.
Obviously, more computer involvement, but computers are not going to take away our table games because we like table games too much. They'll just be more and better computer assistants. now that we have learned to play RPGs over Zoom, we're not suddenly going to forget. It'll just be another way that they get played.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. I don't think that the storytelling will be replaced by a computer. I think that people enjoy. Sure, we're looking at screens right now talking to you, but it doesn't feel like screen time, right? It feels like I'm talking to you. So we crave that, right? I mean, I do. We crave that social interaction to be able to have that. So I agree. I think that games are here. Tabletop games are here to stay. We may be able to do it electronically. We're definitely going to have some neat tools that'll make D&D Beyond and our VTTs look, simplistic and be easier, and we'll continue to improve there. But yeah, I think that's a solid prediction. I think you did very well. So, thank you very much for joining us today, Steve. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us and to be a guest here at GaryCon. And in fact, if you want to see more of Steve, he'll be playing Pathfinder with Jason Bowman Sunday at 4 p.m. Central Time on GaryCon Gaxmore Twitch channel. So make sure you tune in and check it out.
I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely. And we definitely got to make sure that you come back to a future in-person GaryCon so we can sit down and play some Car Wars together and chat some more. So yeah, absolutely. I can't wait. So stay tuned for more great games, and we'll see you around. Take care, Steve.
Take care.
Rumors tell of a goblin whose magic Rumors tell of a goblin whose magic tears at the world itself. A magic that must be stopped. As you survey your surroundings, you see the treetop village of the goblin headman. Trails of vicious slime cut across the walkways from creatures of unnatural size. You slip by unnoticed, or so you think. Chittering in the darkness, a grasping tongue. You've been discovered. The goblins leap on you. Roll for initiative. Epic encounters. Turn your RPG up to 11.
Hello, I'm Benwin Bronzebottom, celebrity dwarf and video game enthusiast, and this is my sidekick, Crowy.
Hello.
Quiet, you. I'm here to tell everyone about Untitled Champions of the Forgotten Realms. It's a Dungeons & Dragons-based strategy game from Codename Entertainment.
It's a management game with an emphasis on formation strategy, where you assemble parties of legendary heroes and send them on adventures through the Forgotten Realms.
Heroes? Crowy, don't you mean champions?
Players unlock legendary champions of the Forgotten Realms, like Dritz Duerden and the Companions of the Hall, Farida and Havilar from the Brimstone Angels saga, and many more. Assemble the best adventuring party possible based on your formation options, champion abilities, and the obstacles and enemies you face.
Or just smash your mouse button repeatedly like I do and hope for the best.
Each champion has an incredible array of skills and items to let you customize your style and play even further.
Farther. Farther means more distant, further is figurative.
Well, I meant more distant, but figuratively.
That's forther.
Well, customize your style even further, because Untitled Champions of the Forgotten Realms is available on all your favorite gaming platforms. Steam for PC and Mac, web, Epic Game Store, PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, Nintendo Switch, iOS tablets, and Android devices.
Well, let me know when it comes to the BlackBerry. I'm not giving up that phone. It's the only keyboard I can use.
I hear it's coming to the smart fridge next spring.
in the frozen mountains of the north. You have come to end the terror of the Grimfang King and his army of raiders. The biting wind has slowed your pace as you approach the mountain hold. The air is painful to breathe, the snow thick and unyielding. You draw close. Distant torches lighting the icy ground. A rank odor fills your nostrils. The shouts of orcs fill your ears. Great beasts roar and slam against their bonds. You ready your weapons and prepare your attack. Battle is about to commence. Epic encounters. Turn your RPG up to 11.
We have done it! 5 years of planning and thinking before the dream finally came true. A team of 12 dedicated professional developers and internet marketers who desperately love board games put in 17 months of hard work. And now, we are proud to present to you Tabletopia, the digital platform to publish and play any kind of board games. It is the most sophisticated virtual table in terms of functionality, aesthetics, and usability. We integrated everything that was conceivable to recreate the feeling of playing on a real table. And at the same time, we implemented a lot of tools to facilitate playing life hacks. Setting up the game, dealing cards, shuffling decks, etc. takes only a fraction of a second. And the same holds true for creating your very own game. It takes only a couple of seconds to create any game objects from standard print version graphics. Just drag and drop your files, borrow whatever else will be necessary from our extensive library of free game objects and place them on the table. Your game is ready. And now, play test, demonstrate your game, make videos, or even earn money with your game. Tabletopia is a full-scale ecosystem for publishing digital versions of board games. But of course, the main focus of our project is to allow players around the world to play remotely with their friends or find worthy opponents here. And we are speaking about literally thousands of games and their variations. Many leading publishers and game authors have joined us already, and from day one, you will be able to play many popular games. But this is only the beginning. Ahead of us are a lot of new cool system features, new games, and millions of hours of fun. So stay tuned, subscribe to our newsfeed, and be ready to jump in. Tabletopia, where board games go digital.
The scent of sulfur is thick in your nostrils. The stalactites shudder above you as the huge red dragon beast rises from its pile of golden treasure. Something you can only describe as a grin splits its elongated head. Enormous teeth glittering in the dull amber glow from the lava pools. You ready your weapons as it prepares itself to strike. Roll for initiative. Battle is about to be joined. Epic encounters. Turn your RPG up to 11.
The mighty red dragon swoops in over the battlefield. The wind beating from its wings nearly knocks you over. As you stand in its mighty presence, you realize there is no hope for any of you.
Well, I'm out of spells, so I'm just a 10th level dude.
And I'm still unconscious. So if one of you could please go into my bag and get my healing potion, that'd be great.
Then I smash the lizard. Raging, charging, power attack.
Roll your worthless attack. Your pitiful attack glances off the dragon's scale, and it opens its mouth, casting you in the molten glow of its inner heat as it prepares to release its fiery breath upon you all.
Wait, I haven't gone yet.
What weapon could you possibly have to defeat the great dragon?
The greatest weapon in all the realm, forged by Norse foundry to defeat all evil.
No, it can't be.
Take up a fight against evil with the finest weapons in the realm at NorseFoundry.com. And be sure to watch Dragons and Things every Friday night on Twitch.
Hello, I'm Benwin Bronzebottom, celebrity dwarf and video game enthusiast, and this is my sidekick, Crowy.
Hello.
Quiet, you. I'm here to tell everyone about Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms. It's a Dungeons & Dragons-based strategy game from Codename Entertainment.
It's a management game with an emphasis on formation strategy, where you assemble parties of legendary heroes and send them on adventures through the Forgotten Realms.
Heroes? Crowy, don't you mean champions?
Players unlock legendary champions of the Forgotten Realms, like GaryCon and the Companions of the Hall, Farida and Havilar from the Brimstone Angels saga, and many more. Assemble the best adventuring party possible based on your formation options, champion abilities, and the obstacles and enemies you face.
Or just smash your mouse button repeatedly like I do and hope for the best.
Each champion has an incredible array of skills and items to let you customize your style and play even further.
Farther. Farther means more distant. Further is figurative.
Well, I meant more distant, but figuratively.
That's forther.
Well, customize your style even further, because Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms is available on all your favorite gaming platforms. Steam for PC and Mac, Web, Epic Game Store, PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, Nintendo Switch, iOS tablets, and Android devices.
Well, let me know when it comes to the BlackBerry. I'm not giving up that phone. It's the only keyboard I can use.
I hear it's coming to the smart fridge next spring.